Good evening, Foundation staff. This is 0513, and welcome to another Anomalous Broadcast from Site-42. As a reminder, while we welcome Foundation staff to view this broadcast through embedded links to their YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook apps, the only way to join the discussion via text or video chat is through the secured GetVokl app. Meanwhile, if you wish to support further advances to our broadcast technology, you may choose to make a donation from your monthly salary to the Site-42 Patreon. I am currently activating the Site-42 GetVokl chat monitoring network. Active. The first item on our agenda for this evening is a readiness briefing for the imminent active phase of SCP-4666, known as a Vice Nacht event. This Hercules anomaly is nigh uncontainable, and due to the risk it poses to human life, the inability to capture and study it, and the risk of the Foundation's exposure presented by its freedom, our briefing tonight will consider the possibility of neutralizing this entity. This begs the questions of both, how could we neutralize it, as well as, should we neutralize it in keeping with our mission statement of secure, contain, and protect, and our reticence to destroy objects that could be studied for the betterment of our Foundation and mankind. Keep these questions in mind as we read through the documentation. Do recall that our cover story is that of an online creative writing project, so metacritical analysis of literary tropes such as story structure, character, and so forth can prove useful to our purposes. At this time, proceed to pull up the documentation for SCP-4666 and read along. I will wait exactly 10 seconds. Let us begin. SCP-4666. Object Class: Keter. Special Containment Procedures. Web traffic and law enforcement channels worldwide are to be monitored for evidence of SCP-4666 activity, and particularly for cases of stalking or reports of anomalous phenomena involving families with young children. Should a Vice Nacht event be suspected to be in process, the nearest containment task force is to be dispatched to attempt containment of SCP-4666. Standard PDP Level 8 Humanoid First Contact protocols apply. Media coverage of family deaths attributed to SCP-4666 is to be suppressed or falsified to make said deaths appear as non-anomalous home invasion murders. Forensic evidence at SCP-4666-A instances collected by non-Foundation agencies are to be confiscated and witnesses amnesticized. Description: SCP-4666 is currently believed to be a single, exceptionally long-lived humanoid entity of unknown origin. Survivors of Vice Nacht events typically describe SCP-4666 as a very tall, note between 2 meters and 2.3 meters, elderly male of European descent, with an extremely emaciated appearance. The entity always appears completely naked, even when observed outdoors in freezing weather. Though the nature and extent of its anomalous properties remain uncertain, SCP-4666 appears capable of instantaneous or near instantaneous travel to any location north of 40 degrees north latitude, and possibly to any location on Earth. SCP-4666 activity occurs exclusively within a period of 12 consecutive nights every year, from the night of December 21st to 22nd to the night of January 1st to 2nd. This period is known as SCP-4666's active phase. During this phase, in what are termed Vice Nacht events, SCP-4666 will appear at dwellings in one or multiple locations north of 40 degrees north latitude. In all known Vice Nacht events, these dwellings have shared the following characteristics: isolated rural location, home to a family with at least one child under the age of 8, and situated in an area with snow cover lasting throughout the duration of the event. Vice Nacht events consist of the following general progression. Nights 1 through 7. Children will report seeing SCP-4666 in the vicinity of their family's dwelling. The entity will typically be observed watching the dwelling from a distance, such as from across a nearby field or from the edge of a neighboring forest. In some cases, children will report waking up at night to find SCP-4666 watching them sleep through a window. Nights 8 through 11. Family members, including the parents, will report sounds of footsteps coming from the roof or the attic. An extremely unpleasant odor will also frequently be noticed inside the dwelling. No cause for these phenomena will be found. As a result, parents will often begin to suspect that their family is being stalked, or even that their dwelling might be haunted. Night 12. Over the course of the night, one of two scenarios will occur. The first and most common is that SCP-4666 will kill all members of the family save for one child under the age of 8, whom it will abduct. SCP-4666 will inflict incapacitating injuries to family members while they are sleeping, then herd them into a single room of the dwelling where it will proceed to kill them in view of each other. The method of killing varies with the event, and will typically be preceded by some form of torture, which appears to serve a ritualistic purpose. See Vice Nacht events log below. In the second scenario, which has occurred in roughly 15% of known Vice Nacht events, SCP-4666 will not harm the family. Family members will report hearing footsteps inside their dwelling during the night, though no signs of forced entry will be found. In the morning, children will discover presents at the foot of their beds. These will consist of toys crudely crafted from the remains of human children. See SCP-4666-A instances log below. The criteria, if any, by which SCP-4666 determines the outcome of a Vice Nacht event are unknown. We will now access document 4666-V-30091, the Vice Nacht events log. Notable Vice Nacht events. This table is listed as location, year, and description of Vice Nacht event. Unknown village, Croatia, circa 1498. Unconfirmed. An entire family was killed with the exception of one of the children, age unknown, who was abducted. Though specific details about the event are not available in recovered documents, it was noted that the killings presented strong paganistic elements, and that the family members had been made to suffer greatly prior to death. The archbishop who oversaw the investigation wrote that he believed the family had been killed as part of a demonic ritual. Unknown village, Rupertsland, present-day Ontario, Canada, 1689. Unconfirmed. An entire family was killed with the exception of two of the children, one of whom was abducted, and one of whom, female, age unknown, escaped during the killings and was able to reach a nearby village. She told authorities that a naked man had broken into her family's dwelling during the night and proceeded to torture them, exact method not specified in recovered documents. Upon investigation, the bodies of the family members were found inside their dwelling, hanging upside down from the ceiling. All had been exsanguinated. Eichstätt, Germany, 1913. An entire family was killed with the exception of the youngest child, male, age 3, who was abducted. The bodies of the children and the bodies of the parents and 5 other children were found inside a stable adjoining their dwelling. They had been restrained by having knives, pitchforks, and other sharp implements forced through the palms of their hands and into the walls of the stable, before having their tongues removed, leading to hemorrhaging and death. Blood from the family members had been used to paint elaborate patterns of unknown meaning on the hides of the mule, goat, and 2 cows present in the stable. The animals themselves were not harmed. Neighbors told authorities that in the week preceding the killings, the father of the family had mentioned finding tracks in the snow around the family's dwelling. which appeared to have been made by bare human feet. Plios, Soviet Union, 1956. An entire family was killed, with the exception of the youngest child, male, age 4, who was abducted. The bodies of the parents and one other child were found in the living room of their house. They had been restrained, and their feet held over the flames in the fireplace for an extended period of time, calcining the tissues of the feet and exposing the bones. They had then... Oh my. They had then had their heads crushed with an unknown heavy implement. Hundreds of bite marks, believed to have been inflicted post-mortem, were found on each of the bodies. Footnote. Analysis of recovered police photographs has shown that the size, shape, and configuration of SCP-4666's teeth do not match those of a human being or any known animal. My lord. Continuing on. Branches cut from a fir tree outside the house had also been placed over the bodies to unknown purpose. Skudeshvan, Norway, 1971. An entire family was killed with the exception of the second youngest child, female, age 5, who was abducted. The bodies of the parents and 2 other children were found in the basement of their house. Each had at least one limb pulled off by brute force before being stabbed precisely 39 times with an unknown sharp implement, possibly a piece of bone from one of the removed limbs, resulting in massive blood loss and death. The family members had then been eviscerated and their small and large intestines removed and cut into 30 to 50 centimeter long pieces. These had been arranged in radiating lines around the body. Feces from the intestines had been used to trace symbols of unknown meaning on the walls of the basement. Christ. Ægisdalr, Iceland, 1996. An entire family was killed, with the exception of the youngest child, female, age 4, who was abducted. The bodies of the parents and seven other children were found inside their house. All had large pieces of skin removed from their backs, necks, and groins prior to death. Removed skin was found to have been partially consumed. They had then been killed by decapitation with a bucksaw that had belonged to the family. Following death, the family members' headless bodies had been carried to their respective rooms and placed on their beds. Each of the removed heads had also been placed upright on a step of the staircase leading from the first to the second floor, with the parents' heads on the top 2 steps and the children's heads on the lower steps, in decreasing order of age. We are now accessing document 4666-V-30985, SCP-4666-A instances log. This table again lists notable SCP-4666-A instances recovered, with a table noting location, year, and description of the SCP-4666-A instance. Nurms, Finland, 1811. A small wooden drum with 2 wooden drumsticks of uneven length. Drum skin consists of a 390 centimeter cubed piece of skin belonging to a human child, stretched with thread made from human tendons. Gallagher, Wales, 1857. A small knife, 15 centimeters in length. Blade is 6 centimeters in length. Sculpted from a human piece of bone belonging to a human child. Symbols of unknown meaning have been carved into the handle. Makat, Kazakhstan, 1903. A flute made from the hollowed out femur of a human child. Holes have been bored at uneven intervals along its length. The femur appears to have been dyed in human blood. Bangor, Michigan, 1960. A wooden box containing 13 miniature human-like figurines, each 4 to 6 centimeters in height, made from the phalangeal bones of human children, tied together with strips of human tendon. The figurines have been decorated with human hair and small pieces of torn clothing. DNA testing revealed that the remains belong to 18 separate children. Cape Broyle, Canada, 1976. A ball, 23 centimeters in diameter, made from 19 layers of human skin, wrapped tightly around the desiccated head of an unidentified human male, aged 2 to 3 years of age. Layers of skin are held in place with pine resin. Bard, Netherlands, 2006. A hairbrush. The handle is made of wood and poorly carved. In place of bristles, 43 deciduous human teeth have been set at irregular intervals into the handle. DNA testing revealed that each tooth belongs to a different child. Only 2 of the teeth could be matched to known abduction victims of SCP-4666. Teeth vary in age from a few days to over 400 years. Discovery. SCP-4666's existence and ongoing activity were first detected in 1974 through the Foundation's newly implemented Anomalous Signature Recognition Program. Footnote. Also known as ASRP, this program marked the Foundation's first use of algorithms as a means of detecting anomalous phenomena. Through the Foundation's newly implemented Anomalous Signature Recognition Program, when several highly similar home invasion incidents resulting in family deaths were found to have occurred throughout the Northern Hemisphere during the night of January 1st to 2nd. Note the picture listed with a fingerprint belonging to SCP-4666. Note the unique double whorl pattern. Extensive research into civilian and law enforcement agencies worldwide eventually uncovered evidence of probable Vice Nacht events for nearly every preceding year, going back to the late 18th century, average of 3.1 known events per year. Numerous historical documents were also found which appear to describe SCP-4666 activity occurring prior to this period, in some cases as early as the 2nd century AD in Europe and Russia, and as early as the 1st century BC in Scandinavia. Fingerprints belonging to the same humanoid entity have been discovered at the location of all Foundation-investigated Vice Nacht events. These have been matched to a partial fingerprint found preserved in dried blood on a recovered SCP-4666-A instance dating from 1873. The fingerprints present characteristics not known to occur in human beings. See image. Human-like white hairs were also recovered from the locations of several Vice Nacht events, though no DNA, human or otherwise, could be extracted from them. Addendum 4666-01. On February 1st, 2018. On January 2nd, 2018. Several SCP-4666-A instances were discovered at a family's residence in Hoona, Alaska, following the conclusion of Vice Nacht event number 060198. Among these instances was SCP-466-A-0960, which consisted of a crude, life-size doll made from the emaciated body of a female child, to which the following modifications had been made. 1. A dress made from various pieces of dirty, discolored clothing had been sewn around the body, and in several places, into the body's skin. Number 2. The mouth had been sewn shut with a thread made from human tendons, and the lips painted red with a solution consisting primarily of human blood. 3. The fingernails of another child had been glued over the body's fingernails with pine resin. These had been painted red with the same human blood-based solution. 3 of the body's fingers were missing. 4. The entire scalp had been removed from the head, and the scalp of another child with long blonde hair sewn onto the head in its place. The hair had been tied into 2 braids. Finally, both eyes had been removed, and 2 large round pebbles on which eyes had been crudely painted placed into the empty orbits. Upon examination by the family, the child from whom the doll had been made was found to still be alive, albeit unconscious. Authorities were notified, and the child was airlifted to Bartlett Regional Hospital in Juneau, Alaska, where she survived for 18 hours. 2 Foundation agents were dispatched and were able to interview the subject. See the interview log below. Following the subject's death, her body was confiscated by the agents, and all witnesses amnestified as per standard procedure. DNA testing revealed the subject had been Ekaterina Morozova, age 7, a known abduction victim of SCP-4666 taken from her family's residence in Dubovka, Russia, on January 2nd, 2016. Autopsy of the subject's body shows she had been severely malnourished during the 2 years following her abduction, which had resulted in considerable stunting. Weight was only 15 kilograms. Height was only 90 centimeters. A number of scars and burns were present on her skin, and she had suffered 2 bone fractures, left tibia and left ulna, that had not been reset and had healed improperly. Hands were heavily calloused. Cause of death was attributed to multiple organ failure resulting from severe, sustained malnourishment. We are now going to access document 4666-V-35814. Interview log. Audio log for transcription 4666-06201. Date February 2nd, 2018. Time 2300 hours 27 minutes to 2300 hours 49 minutes. Location Bartlett Regional Hospital, Juneau, Alaska. Interviewers Agent Anthony Kowalczyk, Agent Susan Muse attending. Subject Ekaterina Morozova, SCP-4666-A-0960, female, age 7. Notes. The subject regained consciousness for a period of roughly 30 minutes prior to expiring, during which she was interviewed. Hospital staff had previously removed the thread that had been sewn into her lips, allowing her to speak. Despite having been administered a morphine drip, the subject was largely coherent throughout the interview. The subject did not understand English and initially spoke only a language that was unfamiliar to agents Kowalczyk and Muse. Footnote. Recordings of this interview are currently being studied by the Department of Linguistics, as the language spoken by the subject was later found to match no known language, living or dead. Early indications are that it might be related to pre-Proto-Germanic. However, after several minutes, the subject began addressing the agents in Russian, which she spoke poorly. Agent Kowalczyk, who spoke rudimentary Russian, was able to conduct the interview without the need for an interpreter. Begin log. Alternating speech, Agent Kowalczyk and Ekaterina Morozova, otherwise known as SCP-4666-A-0960. Hello, I am Anthony. What's your name? Are you going to take me back to him? No, I promise. I'm just here to talk to you. I don't want to go back, after a pause. You don't have to. You're safe now, Mishka. The subject remains silent. The agent continues. Can you tell me what happened to you? Do you remember the night he came to your house? The subject responds, I remember. He hurt Mama and Papa and Katya and Juliana for a long time, and they were bleeding. After they stopped screaming, he put me in his bag. Agent Kowalczyk responds, his bag? The subject continues, he had a big bag. Other children were in the bag too. I think we go to other houses. I hear people screaming outside the bag all during the night. Each house, he put another child in the bag. Then, after the night, he take us away. Agent Kowalczyk asks, where did he take you? The subject responds, underground. Unknown word, deep. Underground? You mean in a basement? Deep. Everything earth and mud and ice. Bones everywhere. Everything cold. I can't sleep because it's too cold. Agent Kowalczyk asks, were there lots of other children there with you? The subject responds, lots of children. Lots of tunnels. Lots of holes. But I can't see all. I can't see the other unknown word. Too dark. My hold is with Renee and Helga and Sasha and Paul. We make the toys together. The toys? If you don't make the toys, you don't eat. Don't stop making the toys. Don't fall asleep. Or he hurt you. He hurts you. How? He hit you, or he burn you, or he bite off your fingers, or he cook you on the fire in his room and eat you. He eat Philippe and Sally. What about you? How did this happen to you? Did he do this? After a pause, the subject continues. Renee and Helka and Sasha and Paul do this. They have to. The agent responds, why? The subject responds, I get sick. When you can't make the toys, you become the toys. End log. Oh my. That brings us to the end of the SCP-4666 documentation. Now, our first order of business is how would we go about neutralizing SCP-4666? I am open to discussion for anomalous and non-anomalous means. I now open the floor to this discussion from the text and video chat channels. While you come to your conclusions, I myself am going to continue to muse on the subject. Description. What we are trying to contain is a 2 to 2.3 meter tall elderly male of European descent with the ability to instantaneously or near instantaneously travel to any location, possibly on Earth. In the text chat, Luke responds that it seems like it would be hard to find. I agree. The reason our containment principles right now are all focused on covering up events is because we do not have a current method of containing or neutralizing the subject. In the chat, Liz points out, It does live in a single place where the workshop is. As far as we can tell from the interview log, we are looking at a deep underground, vast network of caves and tunnels. Earth and mud and ice. Apparently, there is a personal room it keeps in this series of tunnels. Liz in the chat posits that it may be the North Pole. That certainly seems like the kind of stereotype I would be looking at here. And noting that it does stay above the 40 degrees north latitude line, it wouldn't be shocking for it to be central in the North Pole. Noting in the description, it does not look as if we have... If no one has come to this conclusion, if someone has come to this conclusion before, I would be surprised if we had not investigated the North Pole using some sort of depth scanning device, be that non-anomalous or anomalous. I can't imagine that we wouldn't be investigating that with this sort of situation. So the question is, why haven't we found it? It leaves its home over the course of 12 days, consecutive nights every year, from somewhere between 21st and 22nd of December to January 1st to 2nd. This is the active phase where it leaves its nest, so to speak. I imagine our only hope of rescuing these children has to... Geographic scans of the underside of the North Pole. Our documentation makes no mention of such a test. Interesting that even governmental geologic surveys would not have found such a thing if it were capable. This makes me curious. Geologic surveys beneath the North Pole. Oh my. The first hit coming up about the North Pole geographic survey is that the North Magnetic Pole has been moving. I wonder if there is a corollary here. Liz posits the fact that we might not have searched, being that maybe we don't want to find this. Perhaps that has to be the case. If we don't have the opportunity to hunt it. Well, with that being said, the only question left, if we cannot neutralize it, if we cannot find it, after all this, after hundreds of years, after 40 years of ourselves attempting this, We still cannot contain this thing. Were we to have any ideas to hunt this thing, I would easily permit presenting it to the Ethics Committee for approval of neutralizing and decommissioning this SCP number. But I feel that we have no ideas here. I am certainly stumped. I had hoped that going over the documentation together would bear results. But that is the tragedy of our line of work. Sometimes there is no solution. And this is why we contain by hiding this sort of horror from the general public. Heavy hangs the head that wears the crown. This frustrates me to no end. But I will have to give up on this case for the evening as we are running out of broadcast signal. Thank you for your conference this evening, Foundation staff. Perhaps next year we will come to a solution. Until then, this Vice Nacht event this year will be primarily cover-up. Consider what we have talked about well this evening, and perhaps better luck next year. Thank you for your time this evening. This is 0513, signing off.